Welcome to the Wealth Podcast, Off With Your Coat, a podcast on women's health and wellness where we flip the script and ditch the surface level chatter. We need to ask the real questions. Let's get back to storytelling and back to basics to help us uncover how to set ourselves up for true health and wellness and pass it on. I'm Kat Duff, founder of GenWell, the women's health advocacy brand building wealth, the intersection of health and wellness. Some days it's me and a doctor, coat off, talking about what really matters. No fluff, no filters. Other days, it's East meets West, trading tools, not punches, to help move women's health forward. We're building generational wealth. Come with us. Coats off, let's go. Today, we're joined by Brooke Wanford, co-founder of Ladibug. You can think of Ladibug as the Sephora of women's health items, vetted products like tampons, lubricants, and everything that your general drugstore offering doesn't have, especially because it's actually good for your health. We dive into a lot, and let me tell you, I learned so much from Brooke. You are going to love this episode. So make sure that you subscribe to Off With Your Coat wherever you're listening, and we'll dive in. Brooke, Off With Your Coat.
Amazing. Well, thank you for having me. I love GenWell. I love everything about what you're doing, and we have so many similarities. But yeah, so my name is Brooke. I'm co-founder of Ladibug. We are a first one-stop shop for all female health products. I kind of like to say we're the Sephora of women's health.
Yeah, I love that. So we always start off our episodes with this sort of more personal connection, and I'd love to hear from you. Being a woman throughout your health journey, was there any moment that you had this sort of aha, or it could be a what the fuck moment in your women's health journey or something that surprised you?
I mean, there's so many. But I think one that really comes to mind with this question is, and I'm such an open book, is before I'm Australian, but I moved to New York around 3 years ago. And right before I moved, I just did like my regular pap smear to get tested. Before I left, I went through a bunch of tests, and I basically came back and I got this like awful phone call saying your results are abnormal. It means that it's an STI and like you are high risk of cancer. So they were like, you have HPV. And I've never heard of HPV, and fully panicked. And it was a moment where it was like obviously very shameful because I thought it was an STI. I was with my partner and I was like, how does this happen? Long story short, then went to my gynecologist and she's like, 85% of people have HPV. It's so normal. And basically I just kept getting tested. It did develop into high grade and I had to get like the LEAP surgery. But I say this story and I tell everyone this story because it was a moment where I was 22, 23 and I thought I was quite health literate with my journey and like female health. And I had never heard of HPV. And then when I told 3 of my closest girlfriends, they were all like, oh, I had the same. And I'm like, but how have we not spoken about this? So I think in that moment, it was just like, wow, there's so much shame tied around women's health, but also like a complete lack of education. Like, how have I never, if this is the most common sexually transmitted, it's not an STI, but it's like a variation of it. Why weren't we taught about this in school? Like, why is there not enough data around it?
Right.
So that was my real aha kind of moment.
Yeah. And like I had remembered when I was a teenager that I think like the Gardasil vaccine had just come out. And so that was kind of like our first intro into like, oh, HPV is a thing, but I wasn't having sex at the time. I didn't understand what that was. And to your point, there's no education on that. And like, I believe that there's no way for a man, like there's no symptoms for a man, right? So like they're just floating around and most of them have it.
Exactly. And I was also symptomless, which is most of the time you actually have no idea until you get your cervical screening or your pap smear, they call it in Australia. But the most horrible thing was I thought my partner was having an affair, like cheating on me, because we had been STI checked, and then he was baffled. And then when we went to the doctor, they were like, no, this is very common. It was my first cervical screening. So they were like, you probably had it both before. And this is what happens with couples. You go back and forth sharing it. So, but again, I wish I was told that, because that day was the worst day of my life. I went down this like rabbit hole. I thought I had cancer and it was horrible. But then once I started gathering information and speaking to more friends, I couldn't believe the amount of girls that had also had it, and we just hadn't shared it with each other. Yeah, I know.
I had it. Yeah.
It's insane. Everyone has it.
It really is. So looking back, what do you wish you knew up front? What do you think would have lessened the blow of you getting that information?
I think like two things. Firstly, learning about HPV in school and going, this is very normal. Like it often goes away. Just even learning about it, most of the time it goes away by itself.
Yeah.
And then I think that was just, I had a really unfortunate experience with like bad bedside manner. The doctor that called me made me feel like I had cancer, which was so inaccurate. And when I told my OB, she was like, this is the way they've handled this is terrible. You actually don't have cancer. It's just it is a pattern that could potentially evolve into something sinister. So two things from that, again, the bedside manner with certain doctors is usually really good, but sometimes you just get a crappy experience and you just have to go with it.
Yeah. So my HPV, I ended up having a colposcopy.
I had that too. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the step before a full LEAP procedure, right?
Correct. That's when they send it to a lab just to verify and like test, is this something we need to like remove?
Yeah. So they bring in like, it looks like a tank of helium, right? Or liquid nitrogen, and they're actually freezing your cervix. I was told, I actually had made a client meeting for right after this procedure, and I almost passed out from the pain.
Yeah. So that's so funny you say that. I did pass out from the pain.
Oh my God.
I thought it was just going to be like another cervical screening test, and went in, they freeze, and when she was like, they're basically cutting off a tissue, obviously, inside of you. So she was like, cough, and then they cut. And the pain, I mean, I haven't gone through childbirth. I know you have, but I know the pain was so intense. And then when I got up, I fainted. And
yeah, it's all relative, you know?
Yeah, I'm just like, it's so annoying. No one told me that, but anyway.
And then tell me about the LEAP procedure. So what does that entail?
That I was so scared from the colposcopy that I was terrified for the procedure, but that was so seamless. It was literally 20 minutes. You go under for literally 10 minutes. Okay. I personally, I know a few friends who have had it, who had different symptoms after, but I had no pain. Like I literally went on a plane the next day after, which they don't advise, but I had to. Yeah. So it was fine. And then ever since then, it's all gone. It's totally normal and it's fine.
We had to fact check this, but I had cysts at one point, and so I went to this like specific doctor to get a second opinion, and somehow we got into HPV, and he was explaining to me, he was like, I actually catch a lot of husbands that are cheating on their wives, because apparently once you get the HPV out of your system, it would take another strain to actually be detected. So then you would actually know that your spouse is cheating on you, which is
one way.
Terrible.
Imagine getting that call and you've found out that you've reinfected and you've been cheated on. That would be, I also got told that. So I've always said to Archie, I was like, my partner, I was like, I'll always find out. I'll know.
85%. We'll fucking get it back.
100%. Like you can't get away with anything. So I'll find out.
Oh my gosh. So with all of that, so that experience and maybe other things that you've gone through, tell me about Ladybug and how have your experiences as a woman dealing with your own sort of set of health circumstances lend itself to building this amazing business?
Yeah, so Ladybug came, honestly, one day. I know you used to live in New York, so you'd be so familiar with this, but walking into CVS, and I know this is just very unique to Manhattan, but everything was locked behind a cage, and having to go and press a button to get like super tampons and have a really awkward CVS staff member come over and unlock it. The whole experience was just so undignifying. And also when I was there, there's such a random range of vitamins and supplements. And I was like, this next to the tampons is pregnancy tests and then incontinence underwear. So I guess like with my experience and also walking down like a CVS, it just clicked that I was like, why don't we have an experience like a Sephora, where women are the biggest household buyers for all healthcare. And we consume everything from not just period care, but supplements, like prenatals, pelvic care, dilators, sexual wellness. The scope is so large that I was like, this needs a space that's not only super fun and groovy, to give that feminine hygiene aisle a huge glow up, but also with my experience and the lack of education, not just around HPV, but buying certain things that didn't work, I was like, not only does this space deserve to be super fun and glamorous, but it also needs to be cleaned up. So what I mean by that is cleaned up with proper information, have a medical advisory board be like, stay away from these brands that do really well on TikTok. And what is the type of stuff that we should be looking for in categories? And I guess I just really am empowered to improve the health literacy of women. So you can go online and you can actually understand, why would I buy a menstrual cup over a menstrual disc? And like, do I want to buy one? And that information should be super bite-sized information. It shouldn't be a viral TikTok or asking ChatGPT. It should just be available. So that was kind of the goal, to really consolidate the space and make it fun and make it like Sephora, but online. But also make sure that we're now starting to buy products that actually work. And I want to weed out the stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah. I know going into my CVS or Walgreens or what have you, I mean, even the women's care aisle isn't an aisle. It's like a section of an aisle with all the other shit in it. And it's like your entire life is packaged into one small part. To your point, it's like,
it's insane.
From the early stages, like the tween period pads to your incontinence. It's like, great. Thank you for this. And to your point about
reducing
the dignity,
me to this. Yeah.
Right. To your point about the dignity, it's like, could you help us in some aspect of this and give us a little bit more information to make our own decisions? So I love that you are paving the way in this area, which is so needed. So thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. And I guess like one other thing to add is not only, like you said, that it reduces us to feeling so shit about ourselves, but there's also awesome brands out there that exist. Like Femtech has had its moment and it's still having its moment. But those brands, because of the censorship around female like women's health and language, but also just because it is still so new, they can't compete to get real estate in the big retailers. So you're stuck with like a Tampax, which is fine and it's super cost effective, but there's brands like, there's a brand that exists called Sequel, and they are tampons designed for female athletes. And they can't even get on a shelf because they can't compete with a Procter & Gamble. That's where the need for Ladibug was also there, to give these brands who are creating better products for women exposure to an audience.
So you're doing the research and curating these products yourself, and then you also have a team of medical professionals vetting all of them. How does that work?
Correct. So I do a bunch of the research, and my co-founder Vibha, and then we lean on our board to assess the brand and assess a lot of the ingredients. Most of the products are quite simple. They've given us, our medical advisory board gave us a criteria that were like, all lubricants and vaginal moisturizers should not contain X, Y, and Z. So that's really easy for us. If they contain fragrance or scents, we just don't onboard them. But more kind of complex, I would say the supplement industry is super challenging to sometimes navigate. We will go to the board and have set up a meeting, and we'll run through the pros and cons of the brand and whether we want to move forward with them.
Is there a learning curve or a hurdle for women to get to these new products? You know, if you have been a Tampax user for 20 years and you're switching to something, what is going to get that woman to understand for her nuance to switch over to something else?
Yeah, I mean, that is the $1 billion question, right? Like that period care is the most challenging because it's the most habitual. in that it seems like the easiest category, but it's the hardest because we're creatures of habit and we often will go to CVS and just get a Tampax without realizing perhaps there's better brands out there. But a lot of the efforts that we do is not only marketing a lot of cool Gen Z brands that Gen Z, they're super health conscious and also very driven by sustainability, and they're like environmentally aware. So they often tend to lean into exploring new brands. But a lot of the time, things that have worked is providing breakdowns of what products contain certain ingredients, like why perhaps something else might be better. And we typically then see, once we push out that type of information, like a lot of interest in the platform. So like one Instagram we did, and we're also very honest, like there's still a lot of inconclusive data around, is organic better for your health or not? And most of the data suggests that organic and non-organic doesn't reduce your risk of toxic shock syndrome. That was a narrative created in the 80s. So we're very honest with that. But I also say, by using organic tampons, they're structured better. They're easier to insert. They're prettier. You deserve to feel good on your period. And then there's a certain audience who loves that and who will buy into that. But then I'm also very aware they're more expensive. So if you're more cost effective, you probably aren't buying those products.
Yeah. And so to take a step back for a second, so you're from Australia originally. Tell me, you're in New York now, you're assessing the market. Like, what was it like in Australia growing up with like learning about your body and the menstrual care products there? Is it very dissimilar, or what was that like?
No, it's so similar.
Yeah.
Australia tends to follow the US in lots of things. Healthcare structurally is very different, but in terms of like the products and brands, it's the exact same. There are a few different brands that are really cool in Australia that I love. But at least from what I've heard, like speaking to my American girlfriends here, they had the exact same experience. At least in my experience growing up, there wasn't much talk about period care. It was more about, if you had it and you had a swimming lesson and you didn't want to do the swimming carnival at school, it'd be really awkward to have to tell someone that you have your period. And it was just kind of is what it is, and you spoke with your friends. Whereas now I can see that a lot of them are going to TikTok and getting a lot of education and following influencers who are advocates for menstrual health, but also just like sexual wellness and female health. So, but to answer your question, it's pretty similar. Yeah. There's not much difference.
You said an advocate for menstrual health. What does that look like on TikTok? Or I'm so curious about how this next generation is going to learn about their bodies.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the brand August, the tampon and pad brand.
Yeah.
Her name is Nadia. So she's crazy. She posts on TikTok. She got viral from posting 50 times a day, which is wild to me. How
it gives me a lot of anxiety.
So much anxiety. And even I would be so creatively fatigued after 2 TikToks. But
God bless her. Okay.
Yeah, she's amazing. But she was in COVID and basically very Gen Z audience, and started posting just not graphic. It wasn't her period blood, but it was she was emulating what it is to leak and pull out a tampon that's very full, and was just running around Washington Square Park in a giant tampon outfit. And I think while that sounds super trivial and silly, the idea of it is throwing it more in your face to make it just more normal, that you can't just speak with a random on the street about your period. And it's super. So I've seen a bit of a trend of that on TikTok, just girls almost oversharing, having these TMI conversations, which I would have loved to have had in school.
Right. I was just talking to someone else about also the allyship of younger kids. So I think about my son who's now 5. So as he's getting older, girls are having their periods younger, 8 or 9 years old. But just not making fun of girls for having their periods. So he understands that when he gets to that age, oh my gosh, if a girl is leaking in her pants, let me go ask the teacher if she has a tampon or a pad.
Yeah, I love
that. Or
that.
Hey, do you want to borrow my sweatshirt? Versus poking fun at her, laughing at her, making girls feel shame around it. It's this is how you were brought into the world because we have this ability,
exactly.
this superpower, right? shifting that narrative. I love that that's happening on TikTok. And I think from like a parenting perspective, like that should also be something that we're working towards. It's not just like a gentle parenting thing that we're all getting fed on social media. It's like, how do we educate all of our kids on their bodies, but also like to have respect, which
100%.
doesn't feel like it needs to be said, right? Like, why would you have to educate someone on how to respect someone's body? But here we are.
I know, here we are. I know exactly. But I guess it's, we've got to start somewhere, and we're starting now. And I think what I like with that as well is also educating your brothers, your dads, your boyfriends as well. Like, that's been super fun. My dad was one of 3 boys. My partner is one of 3 boys. So I am so not graphic with them, but I like will shove things in their face or facts about childbirth. And I can see slowly the discomfort is just being removed. And they're like, they're like, oh, Brooke's on another tangent. But it is fun playing with them. And then they're more educated and well-versed in the language of women's health, which I think is important.
That's great. One other quick aside. So I have like, my tampons are in this like lower drawer. And so I was my son was like, what are these? And so I was trying to explain to him like what a period is. And so now, he loves playing with anything, right? So he's like, he'll unwrap it, and he was like taking the tampon out of the applicator and just like doing science experiments with it. So now he'll ask me, because I was like, you know what? They're expensive. We don't want to waste these. And so now he asks like, Mom, do you have your period? And no, and he'll like take 6 of them. I'm like, oh God.
And he'll
like color on them and put them in water to see them expand.
I love that though. But like, I don't know about you, but I never did that in school. Like, I wish we were in a class and opened tampons and put them in water and actually saw what they do. I never had that experience.
No.
But I love that. That's so cute.
Well, you see like in movies about like sex ed, and you have like the banana and you have to put the condom on, which like, one, I never did that. So who's to say? And then, like we should be it can be fun and playful, and it's normal. And so how do we bring that in? But I love that you're doing that with your branding and the business in general, and just like how you're putting out education. You make it very digestible, which is really wonderful. And the way that you're dispelling sort of misinformation too, and your little tips and tricks that you offer on the site, I think is really awesome.
Thank you.
Where did the name Ladibug come from?
It's funny when people ask me this, because I have to really remember what I say. But no, it literally, when I was kind of thinking of the idea for a platform that is really like a retailer e-commerce space, I didn't want it to be like fem health, or I didn't want it to like be so obvious, and kind of, I feel like that wave has passed. It's a bit more, my mum's vintage would love that. But a ladybug, like the actual bug, has a 4 life stage metamorphosis before they actually turn and flourish into a ladybug.
Oh, I love that.
So it's beautiful. And I was like, that's a really beautiful metaphor, because women typically have also like a 4 life stage, like they have puberty, menstruation, period, and then like fertility, reproductive, postpartum, then menopause. I know it's like
I'm in my luteal phase, so I'm crying also.
I love that. I know it's a very like fitting metaphor, and then changing like the Y to I was just fun to do. And I thought there'd be lots of ways we could really personify like the brand through future illustrations with the bug, which is to come.
Yeah, how brilliant.
Yeah, it's fun.
And how did you decide, to make it sort of cross? Obviously, we talked about in CVS, it kind of goes from the beginning of your period to the end. But how did you sort of think to assess all of these different aspects of women's health in one place? Or it wasn't just for menstruation?
Yeah, like we've started with menstruation because it's the easiest, right? Like the North Star is to eventually capture the entire life cycle of a woman, and typically the products that she would use and engage with from the age of like 15 or younger to 70 years old. But the biggest thing I thought was like, there's all these, when you go into CVS or Target or Amazon, women's health is literally just defined as period care, pregnancy, and like fertility, breastfeeding accessories, and then the occasional like the supplement category. And the female hormonal life stage and life cycle is so complex and we're far more than just falling pregnant and having a period. So not only did I want to kind of capture multiple categories and conditions, so we have like an endometriosis category, PCOS, vaginismus, vulvodynia, and a lot of pelvic care related concerns. What I've realized is that a female goes through such a nuanced journey in her health, and I think the retailers really fail to capture the complexity of that. So, for example, you could experience pelvic pain because you either are postpartum, or you could have endometriosis, or you could just be about to be experiencing your period and you have endo and you experience like onset of PMS symptoms. And that is really complex. Like, how do you then categorize and allow women to explore products that suit that? So that's why it was so important to us to have like quite a comprehensive array of conditions and life stages, because symptoms are not just felt at one age, they can be felt across a continuum of ages.
Right.
So that was really important to us to capture a kind of holistic view of a woman.
Yeah. And when a woman is going to your site, and so to ensure that they're not just using a product as a Band-Aid, for example, like endometriosis, it can take years and years for a woman to get a diagnosis. Is there something you would say to a woman going to your site so they're not just like using that as something that is like a
plug-in
plug-in, yeah, for something versus like getting holistic care? How do you work with doctors, I guess, and providers to make sure that it's holistic?
100%. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that was raised by our medical advisory board. They were very much like, women's health is still obviously evolving, which is brilliant, but a lot of these products, there's only so much like products can do, and they often are used as how our board presents it is that this isn't a solution, it can be a symptom reduction. So we're very clear on our website in a lot of the descriptions and the categories, like once you kind of have either chatted with your doctor or your provider, the kind of collection of products below may help with X, Y, and Z. And we're very clear with like disclaimers saying, make sure you have chatted, especially in the pelvic care category. Don't just go buy a dilator until you've spoken to a PT. Like, we're very clear on that. And I really hope that women don't come to the site trying to find a solution. Like, a lot of the biggest issue, the category that suffers the most from this is like yeast infections and UTIs. There's all these products that say, cure your UTI, buy this, and it will get rid of it by tomorrow. And then when you actually look at
cranberry juice.
Literally. And then if you look at the fine details and the smaller fine print, it literally says, oh, this is just to treat symptoms. But they market it it's quite deceptive. So we're very careful in how we say things. And I also want women to feel like supported in an overall journey, but we provide a lot of resources, and we're actually creating a list that are like, if you need to see someone, this is a really awesome recommendation.
Right.
So yeah, we work very close with doctors.
That's great. And I think a lot of the doctors, I know that you have on your site a link to or a page for clinicians to sort of understand the products, because I think a lot of clinicians too are not aware of some of these products and they're not introduced. You know, if they have someone coming in for pharmaceuticals or maybe a product here and there where they're giving out samples, right?
100%.
They're really not in on the weeds. So I feel like you're such a great middle person to be communicating and help bridging the gap for women.
Totally. We on that, it's funny you say that, because that is something we're so focused on. I also think there's quite a disconnect between the kind of clinical medical community and products. And it's so warranted, because a lot of the time when we speak with providers, they will say, oh, another patient came in saying, I saw this on TikTok, like, does this work? And because a lot of clinicians, especially OBGYNs, are so time poor, they don't have that time or kind of that energy to then do a deep dive into brands and their clinical studies to see the efficacy of the products. So we're really also trying to not only bridge the gap for women, but also a space that providers can come and, like you said, digestible, like digest a product and find the best and the greatest products out there in really as quick and easy way as well.
Right. Because we're going to be doing it regardless, right? Like, if we're going to be our own advocates and we're learning how to do that and become discerning consumers, we need to be consuming that information ourselves. So
exactly.
I think the evolution of clinicians is like, hey, we are going to be coming to you with a possible pre-diagnosis because we're trying to understand our bodies and we have maybe tried these products or what have you. But I think the net is, one, you always need to see a practitioner, if it's Eastern or Western medicine, about your body. Just someone that's governing supplements you're taking, anything you're putting in and on your body, because we just need that. That is like baseline, right? And I hate that I have to say that, but it's baseline. But I think the understanding that clinicians now can have access to that, and maybe there's a way for you guys to do collaborations where you have these like curated packages for different types of doctors. Like I think that there's so much amazing room for growth there for you guys.
100%. We have seen like a lot of interest, especially the pelvic care community. A lot of pelvic PTs, just because there's so many crappy products they hate that they also tend to lean into brands that they specifically like that others wouldn't like. That's my biggest learning about the medical community. They're all very they feel very strong about the products they typically recommend, and a lot of the time they disagree with each other, but it allows for like healthy conversation and for future like developments in the space, which is what you need.
I also love that you talk about sort of the placebo effect. Can you talk a little bit about like the two kind of points that you and the medical team assess with a product, and like maybe the example, I think you gave an example of the TENS machine, because I think we always say this as well, like if it's like no harm, no foul, great. If you're greens powder, if you're fine with it and it makes you feel good, great.
Go for it.
It may or may not be doing something.
100%.
If you're taking too much vitamin D, that could be a problem, you know?
Totally.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the placebo, it's so interesting. Because we've chatted with the board a lot about this, and they very much are guided by that belief. If it's not harmful and it may provide placebo, then brilliant. I believe in the power of placebo, and given that a lot of solutions and treatments are unavailable for women, if placebo works, then go for it. And so how we kind of manage that is we're very much a platform that's like, we're not telling you what to buy and what not to buy. We're just here to pretty much provide you and empower you with education that you probably have never seen before. And then it's up to you what you buy. It's not my place to tell you, but we are I do like to provide like whether products have been clinically studied. So the TENS unit is an ongoing debate, like for decades, whether it works or not. I have friends that swear by it who have endo, who are like, it's my saving grace. I have other friends who are like, why did I buy this thing? It's really bulky and doesn't do anything. I guess where the conversation can change a bit is there are certain brands who they'll kind of label it as a period pain solution and treatment. And what it is just disguised as a really fancy TENS machine. But then instead of buying it for $30, it's like $180. And that's what annoys me, is trying to kind of market that to women. And it's like, if a woman wants to buy a really groovy looking TENS machine, that is up to her. But like she should at least know that like it's just a fancier TENS machine. So that's kind of where we sometimes draw the line. But I'm all for placebo. If it works for you, that's up to you.
Yeah. And for those women who don't know what a TENS machine is, it basically helps with pain management, right?
Yeah, correct. I believe it stimulates. I'm not even going to try explain it because I will butcher it, but you put it on your tummy, and I think it is used during pregnancy to also help with contractions. And then that's why it's been used in for period pain relief and pelvic pain. But yeah, it's like it looks like a very scientific machine. You dab a bunch of stuff and there's wires everywhere, but it will not hurt you. It is fine.
Yeah. I thought about getting one for my second pregnancy because my son was born during the pandemic, and I was like, oh, I'm going to labor at home for as long as possible because I didn't know what the hospital situation would be like. So my husband like learned all the counter pressure techniques, and I ended up having back labor. So I went from like 0 to 60. I was like, get off of me. Do not touch me. And I was like going feral, like across our apartment at the time in New York. And so I ended up getting an epidural like after 11 hours in the hospital.
Yeah,
But
wow.
that aside, the second pregnancy, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could try to do it naturally and I'll get a TENS machine. And
Yep.
I don't know, some
Yep.
people do other pain relief, but I was like, no,
Yeah. The
if it,
epidural.
you know what? It's okay. We're just
Yeah.
gonna see how it goes.
See how it goes. I've
Yeah.
never been through childbirth, but it's from like cousins and family and friends who have. They all everything they've said to me, they're like, we have this plan and we're really empowered by this plan. And then once it starts, the plan is out the door.
Right.
And I'm like, I
Right.
love that. Like you have no idea what it's going to be like and you just go with it.
Yeah. And I think that's just like a good frame of mind to have as a woman in general, because as you were pointing out earlier, our hormones are constantly ebbing and flowing our entire lives.
100%.
Some points of our life, it's similar, and we will use different products during those times. Like I could use, I'm postpartum and I don't really even need a tampon during my period, where I used to need a super prior to kids, right? Like I think getting so hung up on, oh my gosh, these are the only products I can use and I'm a lifelong, that's like an old generational thing of like, oh, this is the only what I use. I use oil of Olay, I use this
Yeah.
tampon and
Yeah.
pad, and like that's it. It's like, no, we have all these tools at our disposal, and I love that you're helping us sift through. So when you are sifting through products, what are some of
Mhm.
those ingredients also for our listeners that they should be avoiding in personal care products as a woman?
There's a few. So this has all been kind of mentioned by our advisory board and obviously changes per woman, but we're a very anti-fragrance scented company. Until like there's evidence that suggests that fragrances don't upset you, but I don't know if they exist anymore, but there used to be fragrance pads, like pads that smell. I think a few do still sell them. But I think that's very much like speaks to a social trend that women were meant to feel like their vagina was meant to smell amazing. The vagina is supposed to be scentless and it's self-cleansing. So typically anything fragrant, so that also goes into our like vaginal moisturizers and our lubricant category. Just because it can upset your pH and it can lead to yeast infections. And then once you get like one yeast infection, you tend to get like 5 or 6 in the year. So
Why is
that's
that?
I don't know, but apparently it can lead to like reoccurring infections if you keep
Gosh.
using fragrance kind of products, at least
Yeah.
what I've read. Um, so like, but for some people it's fine. It's so individual. Like some people I know use them and they're fine. Others I know get yeast infection or BB straight away. So yeah, very anti-fragrance and scents. A lot of other chemicals like parabens. There's a whole list of them. A lot of brands are usually quite good now. I think that's the whole clean products has really kind of assimilated to become a normal. But just be careful of some of the stuff that you may see in a supermarket. Tends to sometimes be like a hormonal disruptor. There's a lot of evidence coming out around that. And then in other products, I'm thinking of our pelvic dilator space. It's really challenging, the FDA regulation, but there is ongoing and it's changing regularly around whether dilators need to be like approved or if they just need to be cleared. But we're very adamant on making sure that our manufacturers have like FDA approval and they're not coming from a random manufacturer that we've never heard of. So we verify their license. So that's more like a boring regulatory thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're kind of like, in terms of the products we have now, they're the main ones. I would say, though, we don't have supplements, but we're about to launch that category. We're in the process. And a general tip that I love telling everyone is supplements that have USP or NSF. It's like a sticker
Okay.
on the supplement. Genuinely means that supplement, that exact one, has been third-party tested. And what that means is they've tested that what the company says that the vitamin bottle contains is 100% what it contains. So
Mm.
you'd think that'd be the bare minimum, but unfortunately, there were prenatals on Amazon that had an ingredient that's also contained in Viagra in them.
Oh my God.
And claims they had all this folic acid, they didn't because it's unregulated. So I typically prefer to buy supplements that have that approval because it shows the brand is committed to third-party testing and believing the integrity of their formula.
Right.
So that's something we hope to prioritize, or at least like very much display when we launch that
Yeah.
category.
I mean, the supplement aspect is so terrifying in that regard, especially on Amazon, because you can still buy it, to my knowledge, on a storefront. So let's say I'm just throwing out pure encapsulation. I'm not saying that this is happening to them. But the fulfillment aspect of that is where you're getting this counterfeit product.
100%.
And there's been because I've bought supplements off of Amazon because, as we all know, it's so convenient and it's helpful.
So easy.
But now I'm starting to do it for even like personal care products for my kids and like a lotion. And the other day I was like, this lotion smells off. And the anxiety that it gave me that I was putting something on my child that could be harmful, or that, when I was putting all this research into something that was supposed to be clean, that possibly I'm harming them just because I wanted it in like 2 days versus maybe 5.
Yep. I know.
Right. It's that reframe too of like, our health it's not a quick fix in general. Like, nothing about your health is going to be a quick fix, especially for us. So take the time, invest it in, brands like Ladybug, where that they're going to be sourcing brands that will give you the product that is on the label that is vetted by professionals in the medical space. I think that's wonderful.
Totally. 100%. And I think not only Amazon is great, right? 90% of the time it will be a fine experience. But I think where there's actually a few examples of where women's health has become really complicated with Amazon is their Amazon Prime, which we all opt into, which for those who don't know, like you can get it the next day. You pay like a subscription, a membership. But unfortunately, those fulfillment centers are actually separate from their bigger centers. So what that means is a lot of the time when they get returns, they don't check the returns. It just kind of gets pushed out the next day just because of the logistical and operational complexity of Amazon. So, for example, there have been women who have received used vibrators and used pelvic floor dilators because it's been sent back. It's insane. And obviously the brands are mortified and are like, we have no control over the fulfillment process. So it's insane. And then, so with Amazon, not only are you not getting you are getting the most unpersonalized experience when buying for your health on there, but there's also a bunch of random vitamins that you have no idea where they've come from, let alone how they're being fulfilled. So I would just typically recommend to just not buy your health needs. I don't personally. Right. After I read all this, I just don't trust it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's
insane.
Yeah.
Because I received, I don't know if you've ordered, I ordered an espresso coffee machine and it arrived and I was like, this box has been ripped. But I was like, I don't care. Yeah. I can't be bothered to send it back. But the box was clearly ripped open. The hygiene seals were off. And I was like, this is clearly a return item.
Yeah.
But I was like, whatever. Well, but for my health, I would never do it.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that's a great PSA for us all. It's for health. Yeah. Coffee, fine.
Whatever.
I also hate the Amazon returns. But anyway, the whole separate story. Going back to the ingredient aspect, I think it's so interesting because we have been programmed to think that something scented means clean. Mm-hmm. Or there's the stigma around oh my God, do I smell like period blood or something of that nature? Yep. Where in general you don't. If you do, that's okay. To your point, there's the myth that you have to wash yourself or get a special rinse or something. Mm-hmm. You're self-cleansing. Go in the shower, water. Yep. You don't even need soap. You're good to go. So that is something I think all women need to know. Stop wasting your money on all of those washes.
100%.
I have a question about just tampon usages and myths that you're seeing, or maybe your customers are asking you, especially for the younger age, because I feel like we grew up and we were constantly afraid of toxic shock syndrome. So maybe you could tell our listeners what that is. And then also what's the guidance on using tampons these days?
Totally. The toxic shock syndrome, I also grew up with fear that if I left my tampon in for more than 6 hours, I would become infected and have
you
a
fell
seizure.
asleep in it, and like,
I
yeah.
was terrified. And even my mum was like, do not fall asleep in a tampon and whatnot. But as a bit of background to that, because I think your question is interesting, because there's a lot of talk around not only toxic shock syndrome. And for those who don't know, I don't know exactly like the medical part of it, but it's basically
we prefer the layman's.
It's literally, from what I know, it's like, it's if you leave your tampon in for too long, it can create some sort of bacteria that can actually infect you. So obviously, if you leave it in there, bacteria grows, and it actually could be very dangerous. People have died from toxic shock syndrome. It's not just from tampons, it can be from other products as well, but not common. But the origin of TSS actually came in 1980. Procter and Gamble released a product. It was called, I think, the Rely tampon, and it was a super absorbent tampon. So it wouldn't, like, far more than the average tampon would be made now. I'm pretty sure there would be regulation to make sure that it doesn't happen, is manufactured again. But they were about like, I think 80 to 100 cases of women who then were who were getting TSS. So then they obviously discontinued the product. But unfortunately, what spun out from that was this whole, like, you should only buy organic tampons. So a lot of the consumer brands really picked up on that trend and then started marketing their products, as you do when there's like a regulation failure, that their products are better. So when I kind of recommend about the organic, non-organic, I prefer organic because I think the products are structured better and I find them easier to insert. They're also just like, they're cleaner, right? Like they aren't kind of often infected with materials that you just don't know. I also am a big sucker for branding. Like I love a good organic branding product. But if you I find the Tampax, if you're younger, a lot of the time when you open them, they're completely disfigured at the top. They're like kind of torn apart and they're really hard to use. So I kind of recommend organic to start with because I think they're more compact. Like there must be science around that, but I personally find them easier to use. And there's also a new brand for also younger audience around menstrual care. We've just onboarded them called Marlow, and they have created a tampon lube duo,
Ooh.
which is great because I think when you're younger, you obviously don't know your internal anatomy and you're so fearful of, how do I put this up? Like, the whole thing again feels very awkward to talk about, but it's also can be really painful. Like a lot of the time, young girls, when you get your period, you haven't had sex yet. So it's super painful to put anything up there. So this brand is awesome. They're very Gen Z and they're like, just literally dab the top bit of lube in. You don't even need to buy from Marlow. You can just buy lube and tampon, dip it in, and it's so much easier to use.
Boy, I love that.
It's
I
really
think
cool.
that's also super important for women going through perimenopause or even postpartum because you can have painful sex and all of this other stuff, but like you're getting your periods back and it's super dry, and like having that little bit of lube, I think would just make it
Helps
so
you
much
out.
better.
Totally. And I also love, I do love to say, I think it's far more common in Australia than the US, but period underwear doesn't seem to be as big here, but it was big back at home because I think the first brand in period underwear was Australian, Modibody. And I swear by my period undies. Like all the girls like my girlfriends at home, we all wear them. They're the best for bedtime. Like if you're in a heavy flow, they just provide you that extra comfort at night when you don't wake up and go, oh, am I leaking? Or that fear at work when you're like, oh my God, am I leaking? If you wear undies, it just feels like it's like a mental thing. It's extra protection and they're amazing. You can use them instead of a tampon. They're really good.
So do you use it with a tampon or use it in lieu of a tampon?
I do. I usually do it I actually have I'm lucky I have a relatively light period. But sometimes it's occasionally heavy. So if it is, I will wear them both. But always at night, I will wear undies over period undies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Could you also, if you're postpartum, not like maybe the first couple of days, if you had a vaginal birth, but like, could you also wear them postpartum?
100%.
Like
Yeah.
Okay.
They're so the first brand that came out, she was postpartum, Modibody.
Okay.
It's like it's a huge brand now. It's in Target, but she basically created it she was so sick of being postpartum and leaking, but like leaking all sorts of different fluids. And it's like, I don't know what is going on, but I'm sick of the fact that I don't want to wear a pad all day. 100%. They blend into like period underwear and the leakage category. So they're definitely multi-purpose for sure.
Yeah. And let's bust this myth once and for all, but can you swim in a tampon?
Yes. Of course you can. Well, at least I do.
But I saw this on TikTok. People are like, I don't think I could swim in a tampon. I'm like, then what do you swim
What do they do?
in?
Then they don't swim? Like you can't live your life like that. No, the thing that annoys me about tampons is like the string comes out. So sometimes like I'll be at the beach and literally my partner will be like, Brooke, I'm like, oh, I've got to like tuck it in. But that's the thing that annoys me. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that trend. And if it's a trend, then that's terrible.
Yeah.
Tampons for sure. It's like, how else are you supposed to swim?
Right.
Yeah.
Go in the bath. If you're going in like, no, please.
No, please wear it. Please wear them.
Can you also tell me the difference between a disc, menstrual disc, and a cup, and who might be better to consider either one of those?
So interesting. I had no idea until I started Ladybug the difference between a cup or a disc and what they can serve. But basically, a menstrual cup and menstrual disc are obviously an alternative to tampons and pads and period underwear. And they literally think of it as like a cup that collects your blood. And people love them because they're so cost effective. You buy one, it lasts 5 years. So you don't have to keep buying tampons and pads. It's great for the environment. But also the difference is that a menstrual cup sits lower. I'm gonna butcher the anatomy, but it basically sits far lower, whereas a disc sits much higher. So, and they're kind of shaped differently. So a disc is like kind of like a cup is like a cup, and then a disc is kind of like looks like a frisbee. So they sit very different internally. But I always say that if you're starting out and you don't know which one to pick, a cup is usually best, especially for a younger audience, just because they're not as familiar with their anatomy and probably where placement is. And I would also say a menstrual disc is often better if you have an IUD, because the suction of a cup can often lead to, there's been cases of girls like pulling out a cup and it's pulled out the IUD from the suction.
Okay, that's interesting.
So recommend not like opting for a disc. And you can also apparently have sex if you have a menstrual disc on your period. So if you want that as well and you're indifferent.
So high. It's like touching the cervix. It
sits so high. If you Google a diagram, it shows the placement. But they're amazing. And we stock a brand called Hello Period. They're a New Zealand brand. They're probably one of the best in the world. And another brand called Lunette, which is a Danish brand. But they're all made with silicone, medical grade silicone. So they're totally safe. But yeah, people I know who use them absolutely swear by them.
Yeah. And okay, say you're at work, you're on your period, you go to the bathroom. If you have one of these things, are you like going back to like middle school when you had braces and you had to bring your, toothbrush to the bathroom with you? Like, are you bringing like your dish soap? And how do you do that? Like,
that's actually a really good question. I'm personally not a user of a disc or cup. I have lots of people in my orbit that are, just because my period's so light. But that I would recommend, from what I've heard, I've asked this question. I'm like, what do you do at work? Like, how do you empty it? But I'm pretty sure you just literally take it out in the bathroom and then you tip it out in the toilet. But yeah, you would need like unless you feel comfortable with everyone at work, go for it. Like, I love that you feel like you can clean it in the sink, but I think a lot of people will probably go to like a occupied disabled toilet if they need one, and do that in private. But it also, you can wear it, I'm pretty sure, for around 5 to 8 hours, and it holds like up to 3 to 4 times the amount of tampon. So you might get through your whole day wearing it, and it's fine.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that.
Oh, it's fine. It's my pleasure.
I want to shift our conversation into community, because that is huge for Gen Well, and just connecting women over storytelling, even just that connection with you and I over HPV, I think it's just so wonderful to feel seen and not alone, and also learning from one another. And so understand that you're doing that with the Ladybug Lounges in New York. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about how you're building that and what that has been doing for women.
100%. I mean, I think women's health, the crux of it is community. Like you are connecting over a shared experience, a shared pain point, or a shared passion. So community is undoubtedly the most important thing in women's health, and speaking with your girlfriends about what you've experienced, or your mums or your sisters. But we very much saw that there was a space and a need for a community in New York entirely focused around women's health. And so what I love so much about this city is that it's so densely populated with a lot of girls and women our age or a bit older that they're all wanting to join like run clubs and coffee clubs and book clubs. But we had a TikTok that went viral and got like 400 women who were basically signed up and were like, I want to join a women's health space where I can connect to experts, but then I can connect to other people who experience what I experience and just chat through how we cope with that, or like what's the coolest new things in women's health. So that's been super fun for us. And we called it the Ladybug Lounge because it's very much supposed to be like Gen Well, very cozy and intimate and just very low key. Like I want to move away from like the super clinical, boring aspect and make
just panels on panels on panels, and that's it.
We love a panel, but it gets kind of boring. So what we're doing is creating. We've got a community of over like 200 women in New York who often will not only engage like with socials and a lot of our content, but will come to in-person events that we host. So, and those events are usually on a specific topic that the community has asked for. So we started our first one around fertility. That came up so much with girls in their 20s saying, should I be worried about freezing my eggs? Like it's something I was interested in. Like, should I be really worried about it because TikTok is telling me I'm infertile? So we had an event with Kindbody. Everyone got free AMH testing, learned what that can do, what that can't do, and just got like the super dumbed down terms of like, this is a woman's reproductive life cycle. These are the statistics. And it's always after work, you grab a drink and you bring a friend. It's like an hour. And then we had another event, which was all about tummy issues. That's one that the Gen Z girlies love. It's like, why do I have bloating? Why am I constipated? Why do I have random pain in the day?
All of us, right?
It's all of us. And there's still no solution. But we held an event with a dietitian and that was amazing. So all the girls came and ate hot girl pickles from Good Girl Snacks and had like a hot girl tummy issue event. So it's really important for us, not only to show like kind of what we're trying to build and get that instant feedback, like what can we do better? But it's also a great pulse check to sense what are you guys seeing that you don't understand, and how can we cut through the crap on TikTok and connect you really easily with an expert, because we can do that. And that's been so important for our community.
What are you seeing are those other sort of like common threads or trends from women that they don't understand?
So fertility, definitely a main one. Or gut health. There's a lot of interest in gut health. What does gut health even mean? It's such a massive, broad topic. Nutrition is also a big area, and there's like kind of a dangerous trend on TikTok. It is going back a bit. I've at least noticed it, to super thin kind of looking trends and like ways to opt into that wellness lifestyle, which isn't great. But and then I would also say a lot of chat around supplements and mental health, especially in New York. A lot of stuff that the girls are wondering is, I work in a high pressure role, or I work long hours. I'm in a city that is super indulgent. How do I maintain my mental health, my stamina, preserve my energy, whilst also trying to like progress in my career? That's kind of come up quite a bit as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying the bulk of the confusion is really in that Gen Z moment right now. It's like that fertility challenges. That's like what you're seeing the most of, versus like the perimenopause, if you're looking at like life stages.
Totally. Like to be fair, we're almost biased because we are targeting Gen Z. So we do lean into TikTok, which is obviously Gen Z are consumers of TikTok. But we did get quite a bit of feedback from older audiences around like perimenopause. I think what I've seen, menopause it's great. It's having a huge moment that it deserves. It still has a long way to go in terms of treatment, but there seems at least also that I've heard like a bit of a cry out from the perimenopause community, as in how like to help them and guide them through that really awkward decade before they enter that next life stage. So I would say that's something else that we've also seen, but we're kind of more focusing just on Gen Z.
Yeah. Well, when you're ready, because I am a millennial, we can do that collab for Gen Z
100%.
and millennials as we're in this space, because
Figuring it
Lord
all out.
knows. Yeah. Well, it's because it does come full circle. It's like even when we were
It
talking
does.
about the lube before, it's like you got to lube up your tampons to start, and then you need to lube them up again.
Totally. And the Gen Zs are going to go through peri, so like they need to know. Like
Well, yeah,
it doesn't just stop there. Totally.
I'm so grateful that all of this femtech and technology and social media has evolved, because my daughter is too. Like as she's growing up, I will be able to give her that information to make her own informed health decisions for her whole life, not just how we're being reactive to all of these life stages. So like how freaking incredible is that? And it's for all of these brands that we're creating, which is so unbelievable. But I guess that brings me to some final thoughts of social media can be a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing? Any social media myths that you want to dispel in women's health in general, or something that you've seen that you really want to get to the bottom of?
Yeah, I mean, there's 1,000, right? They come up all the time. There's so many, but a couple that come to mind, and also what I learned at our gut health stomach issue event. This is more a trivial one than I've got a more serious one, but I would say CMOS, and I am a sucker for. I love a wellness trend. Like I will buy, if someone says this will clear your skin, I will go buy it. So I was vulnerable to the CMOS trend, but there is absolutely no science behind it. There is no data. I don't know where it came from, but it's a big wellness trend. So just if anyone is potentially thinking about buying it, go see if there's data and send it our way if you find it. But yeah. The second one that I think is more concerning, and at least from what I've heard from actual experts and doctors, is I would say the birth control trend on TikTok is pretty bad. TikTok hates birth control. There's a lot of influencers claiming that you become infertile from birth control and that it completely messes up your hormones. And I'm sure that there is probably truth to that, and I welcome space for that conversation. But at least from what I've heard from experts and doctors and fertility experts who obviously deal with fertility treatment all day, every day, they were like, there is no science and there is no data to suggest that birth control will harm your fertility. So I think there's a lot of stuff online about being natural. And again, I loved that. I was like, I want to be natural, and I'm curious about what my normal kind of period cycle is. But if you genuinely don't want to get pregnant and you have a partner or like whatever other reasons you're on a pill or the birth control for, don't go off it because of that trend. Like chat with an expert first and hopefully they can ease your anxieties around it.
Right. That's such a great point, because you don't need to just like go off of something immediately too. I mean, it can benefit you. Yeah, some women, I remember being on the pill. I think I was on like low estrogen for a while, and I hated it. My body hated it. I tried a different pill. I have an IUD in, like the Kylena, and it works for me, but I also find my hormones to be a little bit more balanced in this life stage. Like you could be in various different life stages and something could work differently for you. But 100%. I think to your point, and what we were saying earlier, is you always have to have guidance in what you're doing. Like you are the best CEO of your own health. You know your own body the best over anyone else, but you still need that guidance on everything else that is surrounding you. So I
100%.
love that. So, okay, quick fire round. What is your favorite ladibug must have, or it could be a couple of them?
Okay, I would say 2.
Okay.
I like plug this brand in everywhere. So I hope they appreciate that. But Moxie period products.
Okay, and I love their branding.
it's their branding. I'm obsessed with their branding. They're Australian. But the reason why I also prefer them is because I'm Australian and they don't have the applicator. So in the US, applicators are normal in tampons, whereas for like Europe and Australia, we don't have them. So that's why I also love them, because I don't really love the applicators.
Can you tell me, fully candid here,
Yeah,
I have
tell me.
never successfully put in a tampon without an applicator.
I know. It's like,
so like someone handed me this like tiny thing.
and you're like, how do I
forget
put that
where we
in?
were out, and I was like, do I eat? Like, what do I do?
What do I do with that? I know it is. I could totally, if I was brought up on applicators, I would look at a non-applicator tampon and be mortified. I'd be like, where, how?
It's
but
like a circumcised and uncircumcised penis. You're like,
literally, you're like, what is normal? I don't even know. But you literally just like it gets messy. Like you just have to embrace your internal anatomy and just shove it up
you just
there.
shove it
Like
up.
that's
Okay,
yeah. And
great.
that's unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, but back at home we don't have applicators, so that's just is what it is. It's kind of the norm.
Great. Okay, awesome.
I love them.
I
And
can't
then
wait
the
to
other
try it.
one, they're great. Then the other one I was
Yeah.
going to say is period underwear. The Dear
Okay.
Kate heavy flow period underwear we sell. I mean, I have like 5 of them for every night of my period. I love them so much. They're so, you just chuck them in the wash and they're so easy.
And for women that don't know, there were a couple of brands, I think in the last couple of years, that were flagged because they had like forever chemicals and microplastics in that liner.
Yep.
So to be clear, the products that you have on the website are free of all of those.
They're organic or bamboo. So
yeah,
they're totally safe. Yeah.
Okay, what's one wellness trend that you had found on social media that you've been embracing?
Okay, so I went on this whole gluten-free. I'm very gluten intolerant, as everyone seems to be, but my family are carriers of celiac, so I'm actually very likely to get celiac. But I also went on this whole trend of like the glucose revolution, the glucose goddess. I know a lot of
Okay.
people feel like a bit weird about
Very
it, but
polarizing, yeah.
yeah, very polarizing, but it works for me. Could be placebo. But basically, I was getting so tired in the mornings at around 11 a.m. and I had a big breakfast, like oats or eggs and toast. And I was like, I don't know why I'm so fatigued. Like I sleep really well. I work out. And then I listened to a lot of her stuff and read her book. So I changed just my breakfast to not have like those heavy carbs, but I have like a huge amount of yogurt, kefir, berries, and nuts. And it has completely curbed my hunger at 11 a.m. And she's convinced me that it's because of the glucose spike, that a lot of the time when it's not wrapped in like fats or something, it causes a spike and then you get really hungry. But that's something I have leaned into. And now my For You page like thinks I'm like on a glucose revolution.
That's everything. Yeah.
And I don't do anything else, but that one had worked for me. And if it's
Great.
placebo, whatever, but I loved it.
It doesn't matter. It works for you, and that's amazing.
Totally.
Cool. Favorite personal care product that is not in the women's health space. So it can be like makeup, more fun related.
I hate to admit it, but I'm a Hailey Bieber ride or die. And I bought All Her Road. I'm usually not a celebrity brand person. I'm like, they're just capitalizing off their brand. But I did buy all of them and only one has stuck, but the glazing milk that she puts on, I know it's very dependent, but I use that morning, day and night and under my makeup, and it just has transformed my makeup. Like it looks really glowy, and yeah, I just obsessed with the glazing milk. And I hate to plug Road in, but I love her so much.
I love her. I love her style.
Yeah.
So I'm a millennial that is trying to do that, but I refuse to wear low-rise pants.
Yeah,
So
I know. It doesn't suit me.
I'm like kind of stuck.
You're like, what can I copy?
Actually, I read something the other day that the chemist from Rhode actually helped this teenager create a skincare brand for tweens because, as you know, girls are just going into Sephora and like putting actives on their face and crushing their skin microbiome and all of this stuff. And so she actually is working with this chemist and she launched a brand. I'll send it to you because I think your
I would
audience
love to see
love
it.
it.
100%. I'd love to see it.
Last thing you Googled or asked chat.
Let me have a look now.
Okay.
Colostrum.
Colostrum. What?
Yes.
Just like what's the
Yes, just
concept?
what it. Oh, so I because it's so random. Firstly I was like, what is it? But I was I kept getting targeted this brand because we are wanting to go into supplements called Armor or Amra. AR.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes. And I'm like, what is this really expensive colostrum? Like, I must have it. It must be amazing. So that was literally before our call, and I didn't get very far. I read that apparently it's expressed during breastfeeding. So I was like, what is this? So yeah, you probably know more than I do.
So I have a very funny story about Irma colostrum. So my husband buys all the supplements and, he's not really listening to anything I have to say about health, which I think Irma is a great brand and I've heard wonderful things about them. I think in general, I think he just needs to have someone monitoring all of his
Yes.
consumption, if you know what I mean. So anyway, he
It's buying the whole
swears
aisle.
by Irma colostrum, especially for
Does
like the
he?
immune boosting benefits. So it is
Okay.
bovine colostrum.
Okay.
I I haven't tried it. I have
Yep.
tried some other brands like Cowboy Colostrum and it's pretty good, but,
Okay.
I don't know
Amazing.
if it's a placebo effect for him. However, I was pregnant with my daughter. We went on a work trip with, for his like, sales awards type of thing, and so, um he brings his Armor colostrum with him among all of his other supplements. We get there. It was like a tropical beach vacation, and two of his executive staff members land and they don't feel well. And so my husband's like, "Oh, I've got you.
The
I've got Armor
solution.
colostrum." So he's like peddling this powder, pouring it in these guys' mouths like he's taking shots. And 3 nights into this trip, again, I'm pregnant. One of the wives of another coworker comes up to me and she wasn't feeling well. And so she comes up and she goes, "I'm really sorry to ask, but do you have any more colostrum? I'm starting not to feel well." She thought I was doling out my own colostrum.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I was
One,
asking you,
that she thought I was doing it.
and her
Two, that
husband had
she was
taken
gonna
it.
ask me for it. I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Just to be clear, I'm not selling my breast milk,
To be
and
clear,
I'm
and
not
I was like,
giving.
I told my husband, I'm like, "You better stop peddling this colostrum."
You're like, please tell them that wasn't me. Please
Oh
don't.
my
Like
god, yeah.
that is insane.
So,
That is, I
really
love that.
funny. Yeah, really funny. But the net there is I would give it a try.
I'm definitely, well, I mean, apparently breast milk is amazing. It's full of
Yeah,
vitamins. So I'll give
it
it a
is.
go for
I
sure.
love it. Finally, a book, a podcast, or a resource you would love to give to women. It could be health related, doesn't have to be.
I I love, if you are in peri or menopause, I really do love Dr. Jennifer Guntner. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
heard of her.
Yeah.
She is very opinionated, just to preface that, and can be quite polarizing. Um, but what I do like about her is that it can come across aggressive, but she's very much on debunking a lot of myths, and she vehemently hates the supplement industry, which, like, I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with everything she says, but what I really do like about her stuff is that she goes through the data and really tries to explain it. So if something claims that it did X, Y, and Z in a clinical study, she'll go through the clinical study and say, well, there were 5 people and it was a self-survey.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think she's quite good for menopause. So if you are interested in learning more about science but want to understand it a little bit more,
Yeah.
she's a great resource to start with. But she is intense, just so people know.
Yeah. She. I won't name any names, but she is like a head to head with some of the bigger voices
Okay.
in menopause.
I've seen
Um.
that at the
Mhm.
moment. Yes.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like if you go back to some of her stuff, it's called like the Vulva Chronicles. I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
her
she
Substack.
published, yeah.
Yeah.
And she published this whole series in like 2021, and it was all about fragrances and why they're so bad for your pH. And that was a super interesting read. If you want to even understand what pH is and why these kind of hormone disruptors are super bad, like that's a great place to start.
Yeah. Which One quick side note also, when you said vulva, I was today years old when I learned that the vulva is actually on the outside and the
Honestly,
vagina is inside.
You're part of the majority. Like, I didn't know either until I started doing Ladybug and our advisory board sent me a diagram. I was like, what? It's crazy how we don't know that. Our own anatomy is not familiar
How have
to
we made
us.
it this far?
It's wild. You are one of majority. No one has any idea.
Well, I was also thinking because they now say when you're parenting to give the kids the tools to learn about their bodies, and you use like the actual words for things. So like it's a penis, it's not a pee-pee.
Yeah.
And so we were saying, oh, it's a vagina.
Yeah.
So
I
need to tell my
get a textbook.
Right. I need to tell my almost 2-year-old we have to rebrand it. It's now the vulva.
Like, I was actually wrong. I need to retell you. I know.
I've been wrong for 38 years.
I was the exact same. I had no idea either until the last few years.
Oh my gosh. Well, on that note, you are so wonderful. I'm so psyched to go get all my products on Ladybug. I believe you offer delivery in New York as well for all of our New York girlies, right?
And we do. And it's free and same day. So we'll run around.
Will it be delivered by you?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, so then they get to meet a celebrity as well. So like
they can meet a celebrity. Me, like, they probably think like, who is this annoying person from Amazon? But yes, I will be knocking at your door trying to get in. But yes, we do delivery.
So where can people find you, follow along with Ladybug and get all the good details on the lounge?
So we're fully on Instagram and TikTok. We're just ladibugwithani.co. And our Ladybug Lounge events. So if you're in New York, just subscribe to our email list. But we share everything on TikTok and Instagram. So it would be hard to miss the future events.
I love it. And I can't wait for our future collab.
I can't wait. The Perry community. We've got it.
And thank you for all of our listeners. Please subscribe to Off With Your Coat and continue to listen for all of your women's health needs. Have a great week. See you.